First of all,
Oh, God, you're so tough with your fucking open nose and throat. Gee, Joe, and you...
I'm not wearing a costume. I'm wearing Dolce & Gabbana. It's called an evening gown, darling.
Comedians are known for their sharp wit and bold humour. But that doesn't mean they won't stand up when interviewers get disrespectful. Whether it's Ricky Gervais calling out Hollywood hypocrisy or Bill Burr shutting down rude questions, these comedians aren't afraid to push back. After all, just because they're comedians doesn't mean they don't have feelings. They do. They prove time and time again that comedy isn't just about jokes, but about challenging uncomfortable truths with humour. Here are the 9 moments when comedians returned the manners of disrespectful interviewers. One Russell Brand walked into MSNBC's Morning Joe and completely flipped the script. The hosts expected light banter, but Brand had other plans. He jumped into deep topics. How figures like Malcolm X and Gandhi are turned into symbols, often in ways they never intended.
Talking about Malcolm X, Che Guevara, Gandhi, and Jesus Christ.
But the hosts? They were too busy fixating on his accent, boots and outfit.
Kinky boots time.
Wow. So
There are some boots.
Those are nice. Put your feet up, relax.
Instead of engaging with his ideas, they treated him like an odd spectacle. The Brand didn't have it. He called out the media for filling airtime with nonsense instead of real news. As the hosts grew visibly uncomfortable, he doubled down. When they spoke about him like he wasn't even there, he shut them down with a sharp, "You're talking about me like I'm not here." In just minutes, Brand turned the light-hearted chat into a brutal takedown of media shallowness, leaving the hosts completely outmatched. And he's not the only comedian who's turned an uncomfortable interview into a masterclass in wit. Bill Burr's interview with Sarah Silverman turned tense fast, with his sharp wit stealing the spotlight. It started when Sarah introduced him with a comment about them fighting like siblings.
I'm not related to my next guest, but we fight like siblings.
Burr immediately called out her tone, joking that she was calling him a douchebag who just showed up.
This guy's a douchebag, but he came down here. I mean, that's how I heard it.
Silverman scrambled to clarify, but the awkwardness had already set in. As the conversation continued, Sarah tried to psychoanalyze Burr, bringing up his temper and childhood. Burr didn't have it. He shut down her observations with biting humor, flipping the conversation in his favor.
It's so uncomfortable for you.
It feels like an emotional intervention.
His sarcasm and body language made it clear he wasn't impressed with her approach. Despite the tension, Burr handled it all with humor, leaving the audience entertained. His quick thinking turned an awkward exchange into a comedic masterclass. And just when you thought that was it, Burr found himself in yet another interview showdown. And once again, Ricky didn't hold back, turning another tense moment into pure comedy. Ricky Gervais walked onto The Tonight Show to talk about his Netflix movie, David Brent, Life on the Road, but things quickly turned. Jimmy Fallon started with a simple compliment. "You look great."
Oh, thank you very much.
But Ricky wasn't buying it. He instantly called it out, questioning if it was sarcasm.
I look great.
Yeah.
Is that sarcasm?
And just like that, the interview shifted from his movie to his weight. For minutes, the conversation became all about Ricky's appearance. He joked about overeating at night and how no amount of working out could fix it.
I can't work out enough to burn off the calories I take in at night.
Jimmy desperately tried to steer things back to the movie, but Ricky had already taken control. Instead of playing along with Fallon's usual over-the-top praise, he tore through the fake flattery with brutal honesty. The moment was peak Ricky, sharp, funny, and completely unfiltered. Fallon, known for making every guest feel like a superstar, had no way to spin this one. Ricky owned that interview. And just like that, another fiery debate took centre stage, this time on Good Morning Britain, where Piers Morgan wasn't about to back down from a heated discussion on chivalry. Is saying "ladies first" just good manners, or is it outdated and patronising? That was the question, and things got tense fast. Journalist Eleanor Mills argued that younger women see chivalry as more than politeness.
The ladies first thing becomes quite patronising, and certainly a younger generation of women really think so. I did a kind of straw poll in my office.
It comes with old-fashioned expectations, like men always paying for dinner or holding doors in a way that feels like a power move.
Pull out your chair or very much pay for dinner is kind of expecting something back.
Piers, on the other hand, wasn't having it. He fired back, insisting that good manners shouldn't be turned into something offensive. The debate escalated when Piers asked if calling women in his makeup department lovely was somehow offensive.
Every day I have some lovely women in our makeup department.
He argued that chivalry wasn't about control, just basic respect. Mills pushed back, saying many young women feel it's part of a more significant issue, but Piers wasn't convinced. Why are we trying to kill off a little chivalry? He demanded.
Why are we trying to kill off Eleanor's chivalry?
The conversation didn't end with a winner, but one thing was clear. Piers wasn't changing his mind. And just like that, another fiery debate took centre stage. This time, Ricky Gervais took on Joy Behar, refusing to let political correctness silence comedy. Joy Behar tried to challenge Ricky on his politically incorrect jokes.
When you go on the Golden Globes, a lot of time you are politically incorrect and hilarious, of course.
But he wasn't backing down. He clarified that just because someone is offended doesn't mean they're right. Feelings are personal, and no comedian can or should try to please everyone.
Just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right. You know, so you can't second-guess people. If you try and please everyone, you'll please no one.
He argued that comedy thrives on pushing boundaries, confronting taboos, and sometimes using irony that not everyone understands. You can't legislate against stupidity, he quipped, shutting down any idea of censoring jokes to avoid offending people. The conversation shifted to the Golden Globes, where Ricky had made headlines for his brutal takedowns of Hollywood elites. He admitted he loved stirring the pot, calling out hypocrisy, and bringing humour to places others wouldn't dare. "I'm not doing it for the 200 egos in the room," he said. "I'm doing it for the millions watching at home."
I'm not doing it for the 200 egos in the room. I'm doing it for the 200 million people watching around.
Freedom of speech, he insisted, was more critical than ever. In a hilarious clash on Joe Rogan's podcast, Bill Burr shut down Rogan's mask debate with his usual sharp wit. Rogan, skeptical about mask mandates, questioned their need and effectiveness.
Want people to walk down the street with a mask on?
Burr, not one to hold back, immediately called out the absurdity of two non-experts arguing medical advice.
I'm not going to sit here with no medical degree, listening to you with no medical degree.
He pointed out that, with no formal knowledge, it was ridiculous to challenge the CDC's guidance.
Better than the CDC.
As Rogan pushed back, Burr didn't back down. He mocked the idea that wearing a mask could be seen as a weakness, comparing it to fleeting trends like rollerblading. Everyone does it at first, then pretends it never happened.
And then everybody wore the fucking masks. This is like rollerblading. Everybody fucking rollerbladed, and then there was that one fucking homophobic joke, and then everybody acted like they never did it.
With sarcasm, Burr painted the image of the tough guy with his maskless face and exposed throat.
Oh, God, you're so tough with your fucking open nose and throat.
Burr's humour took centre stage as he skewered the situation, turning what could have been a tense debate into a comedy highlight. By the end, his point was clear. He wasn't interested in hearing unqualified opinions on such a serious issue. And just when you thought the conversation was winding down, Burr amped up the intensity, bringing even more fire to the table. But when you thought it was over, the comedians dialed the intensity, taking the exchange to new heights. Tiffany Haddish's response to Will Smith's infamous Oscars slap became another unforgettable moment. When asked about it, she didn't hold back. She shared her admiration for Will standing up for his wife Jada, noting how rare it is to see such support.
Someone who's done comedy, and yet, like you just said, you saw a man defending his wife.
As a comedian, she also weighed in on the joke that triggered the incident, emphasizing how important it is to protect loved ones.
Yeah. I want to know how you felt about it. Would you want your husband to do that for you if you was clearly hurt?
Her answer wasn't about justifying violence, but about the love and loyalty Will showed. Tiffany then revealed how emotional the night was for Will and how it weighed on him, making the moment more relatable. Her honesty and humor turned an intense topic into an insightful reflection on relationships, respect, and the impact of public moments. Even as she joked about the situation, her admiration for Will's defense of Jada stood out, and she reminded everyone that actual loyalty matters. And just when you thought the conversation couldn't get any more intense, Joan took things to another level. Joan Rivers made headlines when she stormed off a CNN interview with Frederica Whitfield. The 81-year-old comedy legend was on the show to promote her book, Diary of a Mad Diva, but things quickly worsened. Whitfield pressed her with controversial questions, including her comments on Casey Anthony's case and her opinions on Princess Diana, which Joan handled with her usual sarcasm and wit. However, when the interview shifted to Joan's fashion choices, it crossed the line. Joan, known for her bold humor, wasn't about to let Whitfield put her on the defensive, and she snapped back, telling the anchor to shut up before storming off.
Are you wearing leather shoes?
Yeah,
shut up.
Joan defended her actions afterward, explaining that the interview was meant to promote comedy, not stir up accusations. Her statement made it clear. She wasn't interested in being treated like a punching bag. In true Joan style, she reminded everyone that humor is about making light of challenging situations and not taking things too seriously. As the conversation started to wind down, Russell struck again, cutting through the nonsense with his sharp criticism. Russell Brand didn't hold back when confronting MSNBC host John on Real Time with Bill Maher. The moment escalated as Brand tore into the network, exposing the blatant hypocrisy in the media landscape. He boldly argued that MSNBC was just as biased as Fox News, criticizing both for acting as mouthpieces for big corporations like BlackRock and Vanguard.
Ingenuous to claim that the biases that are exhibited on Fox News are any different from the biases exhibited on MS.
With sharp words, Brand called out MSNBC's failure to support real journalism, like the cases of Edward Snowden and Julian Assange, who faced persecution for trying to expose the truth.
Like Edward Snowden, no one was willing to talk about Julian Assange and what he's suffered trying to bring real journalism.
As the tension rose, Brand delivered one punch after another, challenging the double standards of mainstream media. He didn't just stop pointing out the bias, he pushed for real change, highlighting the need for a new political system representing ordinary Americans. His passionate plea for systemic change left a lasting impression, making it clear that calling out hypocrisy was just the beginning of the bigger conversation. So, what are your opinions on these savage takedown moments by comedians on ill-mannered hosts? Please share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel.